My wife Hye Kyo has been my backbone during hard times.
Lovely viewers, gather around because today's story is one that warms the heart, inspires the soul, and reminds us why love, genuine, unwavering love, can truly change a person's life. When we talk about Lee Min-ho and Hye Kyo, we're talking about two giants of Korean entertainment, but behind the fame, the schedules, and the flashing cameras, they are also two human beings who found comfort in each other during the most unexpected moments. And today, we're diving into how Hye Kyo's quiet but powerful support helped Lee Min-ho rise from some of his darkest days. Imagine this. Behind the confident smiles he shows the world, Lee Min-ho was battling his own storms. Stress, pressure, moments of doubt, nights that felt too long, and days that felt far heavier than the public could ever see. Lovely viewers, we often forget that even the strongest-looking people have moments when their hearts feel fragile. And for Min-ho, those were the times he needed someone who saw beyond the image, beyond the fame, someone who understood his silence. That someone was Hye Kyo. According to those close to them, Min-ho has shared that there were days he felt completely drained, emotionally, physically, and mentally. But every time he reached that point, Hye Kyo seemed to sense it before he could even say a word. She wasn't the kind who pushed him to talk when he wasn't ready. Instead, she offered presence. A warm meal, a quiet evening at home, a comforting hand resting on his shoulder, the kind of support that asks for nothing in return. And lovely viewers, you know how rare that is, especially in their world. Min-ho revealed that what truly lifted him was how consistent and steady Hye Kyo was. When he celebrated a success, she celebrated with him. But when he felt like he was sinking, she didn't disappear, she didn't panic, she simply stayed. Sometimes she would listen to him speak for hours, letting him pour out everything he had bottled up. Other times she created moments of calm. Flowers on the table, soft music in the background, or a handwritten note reminding him that he wasn't alone. These little gestures, he said, made him feel seen, understood, and safe. One moment that Min-ho reportedly holds close to his heart happened during a time when he suffered extreme exhaustion and was questioning whether he could keep going at the pace his career demanded. Fans didn't know it then, but he was close to breaking down. It was Hye Kyo who grounded him. She told him gently, "You don't need to prove anything. Just breathe. I'm right here." Lovely viewers, that simple reassurance became a turning point. It was enough to bring tears to his eyes. Not because he was weak, but because someone finally understood his hidden hurt. Their relationship grew stronger during these tougher times. Min-ho said that instead of feeling like he had to appear perfect, he realized he could be vulnerable with her. He could laugh freely, cry if he needed to, or sit in silence. And Hye Kyo never judged him. She made him feel like being human was enough. She reminded him that he didn't always have to be Lee Min-ho the star. With her, he could simply be Min-ho. Lovely viewers, doesn't that kind of love sound precious? The kind that holds you together when you feel like you're falling apart. That is the love Min-ho described. He also shared that she encouraged him to take breaks, to rest, to treat his health as a priority instead of an afterthought. She cooked for him when he was too tired to move, sat by his bedside when he was sick, and reminded him that strength isn't only measured by how much you endure, but also by how much you allow yourself to heal. And here's something even more beautiful. Min-ho said Hye Kyo's support wasn't about grand gestures. Instead, it was the 1,000 tiny acts of care that built him back up. She learned the foods he loved when he felt low, the way he liked his tea, the words that soothed him, and the silence that comforted him even more. She understood that healing doesn't always look dramatic. It often looks simple, gentle, and consistent. Lovely viewers, imagine what that must feel like for someone constantly under pressure, constantly watched, constantly chased by expectations. To have someone who doesn't want anything from you except for you to be okay. That is rare. Min-ho said her presence gave him strength he didn't know he needed. It helped him rediscover joy in small things, from late-night walks to quiet mornings to silly jokes that only the two of them understood. He also spoke about how Hye Kyo helped him reconnect with himself. She encouraged him to write again, to travel when he needed space, and to trust in his own talent without forcing himself to be perfect every moment. When he doubted his worth, She reminded him of the lives he had already touched. When he doubted his future, she reminded him that he wasn't facing it alone. Lovely viewers, many people see their glamorous public moments, but what truly bonded them were these softer, hidden moments, the ones behind closed doors, away from the cameras. Moments where Min-ho said he learned that love is not just a feeling. It's a shelter. It's choosing someone even when the world gets heavy. It's holding their hand when they tremble. It's staying steady when they break down. And for him, that shelter was Hye Kyo. He admitted that her support didn't just help him through his toughest days. It changed him. It made him calmer, more grateful, more appreciative of the people around him, and more committed to protecting the peaceful love they share. He said Hye Kyo taught him that vulnerability is not a weakness, and leaning on someone doesn't make you fragile, it makes you human. Lovely viewers, as you watch this story unfold, you can't help but admire the quiet strength between them. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's steady, patient, and real. The kind of love that grows stronger not in the easy days, but in the hard ones. And for Min-ho, those hard days became bearable, because Hye Kyo chose to stay by his side. From the moment Lee Min-ho realized the depth of the comfort he found in Song Hye Kyo's presence, something inside him shifted. You know that moment when you finally exhale after holding your breath for too long? That was what she brought into his life. It wasn't loud, it wasn't overwhelming, it wasn't filled with expectations. It was simply peace. And after all the chaos he had been through, years of pushing himself, endless schedules, the pressure of always being perfect, peace felt like a luxury he never believed he could afford. But now, lovely viewers, let's go deeper into what happened in the days, weeks, and months after Min-ho started openly acknowledging to himself, and later, quietly to those close to him, that Hye Kyo's support was the lifeline that pulled him out of some dark emotional currents. Because their story didn't stop at comfort. It grew, expanded, blossomed, and turned into something that even they didn't expect. Min-ho once said to a friend, "It's strange how someone else's softness can give you back parts of yourself you thought you lost." And that's exactly what began happening. Before meeting Hye Kyo in this deeper, more personal way, he had lost touch with many things that once made him happy. Not because he wanted to, but because constant fame has a way of erasing the quiet joys of life. But with her, those joys started returning one by one. He began waking up feeling lighter. Not cured, not magically healed, but less burdened. And the most interesting part, lovely viewers, is that it wasn't because she solved his problems for him. It was because she made him feel like he didn't have to face them alone. And that's where their story becomes even more beautiful. One evening after a particularly long day, one filled with meetings, rehearsals, and the emotional weight he still hadn't fully shaken, Min-ho showed up at her home looking drained. You know those days when you look fine on the outside but your soul feels tired? That was him. And the moment she opened the door and saw his face, she didn't ask a single question. She didn't ask why he looked tired, she didn't ask what happened, she didn't ask him to explain himself. Instead, she simply said, "You're home. Come in." That was it. The magic was in the simplicity. She took his coat, guided him to the couch, and placed a warm cup of tea into his hands like she had done many times before. Lovely viewers, it wasn't the tea that healed him. It was the way she offered it. With care. With awareness. With intention. He sat there in silence, sipping slowly, and later he shared that he felt something he hadn't felt in months. His heartbeat slowing down, his muscles relaxing, his mind clearing. It was as if her presence gave him permission to rest. He didn't need cameras, applause, perfect lines, or charming smiles. He could just breathe. But the moment that truly touched him came after the tea. She sat next to him, not too close, not too far, just enough to let him know she was there. And then, very gently, she leaned her head against his shoulder. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Lovely viewers, imagine the power of that silence. Sometimes the greatest comfort isn't in the words spoken, but in the quiet companionship of someone who understands you without needing explanations. It was on that night that Min-ho realized something profound. Support doesn't always look grand or heroic. Sometimes it looks like leaning your head on someone's shoulder, reminding them that despite how heavy life gets, they still have a safe place to land. But that was just the beginning. As their bond deepened, Song Hye Kyo started doing something Min-ho didn't expect. She gently encouraged him to reconnect with passions he had abandoned because of his busy life. And one of those passions was writing. Before fame consumed his time, Min-ho used to write short reflections, simple lines about life, feelings, dreams, fears. But as the years passed and schedules took over, he stopped. Hye Kyo noticed that part of him was missing. So one day, she gifted him a small, beautifully bound journal. Not as a grand gesture, but as a quiet invitation. Inside the first page she wrote, "Write what your heart whispers, not what the world expects." Lovely viewers, that single line became a seed. At first, Min-ho was hesitant. Writing meant confronting emotions he'd buried. But slowly, he began jotting things down. Sometimes only a sentence, sometimes a paragraph, sometimes just a feeling. And through writing, he realized he wasn't just healing. He was rediscovering himself. He once told her, "You make me want to be better for myself, not for the cameras." And Hye Kyo smiled softly, replying, "That's all I ever want for you." This gentle encouragement led to something even more impactful. Min-ho began allowing himself to rest. Truly rest. Not the kind of rest where you lie down scrolling through your phone or half thinking about tomorrow's schedule. Real rest. And Hye Kyo played a huge role in making that happen. Lovely viewers, let me share with you one day that completely changed his relationship with rest. It was a rare free morning for both of them, a miracle in their industry. Normally, Min-ho would immediately start planning something productive. But that morning, Hye Kyo stopped him as he reached for his laptop and said, "Let's take a morning for ourselves." "No plans?" he asked. "No plans," she replied. "Just us." They spent that morning cooking breakfast together, burning pancakes, taste-testing fruit, stealing glances, teasing each other when the kitchen got messy. For the first time in a long time, Min-ho felt like time wasn't chasing him. That morning reminded him that life wasn't just about accomplishing things. It was also about enjoying them. And guess what, lovely viewers? That morning became a ritual. Whenever their schedules allowed, they would carve out gentle, ordinary moments of peace. Cooking together, watching old movies, walking around quiet neighborhoods, or sitting on a blanket by the river. But here's where their story becomes even more meaningful. As Min-ho healed, he slowly began opening up about things he had never shared with anyone. Not because he didn't trust people, but because he never felt safe enough to reveal his deeper fears. But with Hye Kyo he felt safe. One night, sitting on the rooftop of her home with city lights below them, he told her about the fear he carried. The fear of disappointing people, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of losing himself again. She listened quietly, looking at him with an expression filled with empathy rather than pity. When he finished, she placed her hand on his and said, "You are more than your fears. And I am here, no matter how heavy they become." Lovely viewers, imagine the strength of hearing those words from someone you trust. For Min-ho, it was like someone flipping on a light inside a dark room. He realized then that support wasn't just about easing his tough days. It was about giving him the courage to keep moving forward, even when the future felt uncertain. As months passed, their connection became even more intertwined. People around them noticed changes in Min-ho. He was calmer, softer, more grounded. And those closest to him knew exactly why. It was because he finally had someone who gave him emotional safety. As days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, Min-ho and Hye Kyo found themselves slowly building a rhythm that felt natural, almost like it had always been there. It wasn't forced, it wasn't planned, and it wasn't something they sat down to define. It grew in the spaces between their conversations, in the way they looked at each other, in the way they found comfort simply by existing in the same room. Min-ho, who once struggled to quiet his thoughts, now found himself savoring moments he used to rush through. He would sometimes pause during the day, maybe between scenes, maybe while waiting in a makeup chair, and smile softly to himself, remembering a conversation or expression from her the night before. He would catch himself doing this and think, "So this is what it feels like when someone changes your world gently." But lovely viewers, what made their connection even more meaningful was that it wasn't one-sided. While Hye Kyo had been his source of comfort, Min-ho gradually became hers as well. She, who was often known for her elegance and grace, was also someone who carried quiet burdens of her own. Pressures, expectations, uncertainties that the world rarely sees. And Min-ho noticed. There was an evening when they met at a quiet cafe they both loved. The kind of cafe hidden between narrow streets, where the lights were dim, and the air smelled of warm pastries and rustic wood. She arrived looking composed, but Min-ho immediately sensed her fatigue, subtle, tucked behind her smile. Instead of asking what was wrong, he simply reached out and gently held her hand across the table. It was a small gesture, but one that spoke volumes. Her shoulders softened, her expression melted into something vulnerable, and for the first time in a while, she allowed herself to lean on him emotionally. Lovely viewers, that moment was significant, because it showed that their bond had evolved. It was no longer just her supporting him through his toughest days. It had become a partnership where both of their hearts had room to breathe. As they grew closer, they began sharing more of their private worlds with each other. They exchanged stories about their childhoods, some funny, some painful. They talked about the moments that shaped them, the lessons that scarred them, and the dreams they were still too shy to admit they held on to. One night, sitting on the floor of Min-ho's living room with takeout boxes scattered around them, he asked her, "When do you feel happiest?" And she thought for a long moment before replying, "When I'm with someone who lets me be myself without hesitation." He didn't say anything right away, but the way he looked at her, soft, steady, filled with understanding, told her that he knew exactly what she meant, because he felt the same. From that night onward, something shifted between them. They began spending more intentional time together, not just as a comfort for bad days but as a celebration of good ones. They created rituals that became the heartbeat of their growing connection. Sometimes it was cooking together late at night, laughing when something burned. Sometimes it was slow Sunday mornings filled with music and sunlight streaming through the windows. Sometimes it was sharing playlists, trading books, writing notes for each other to find later. Sometimes it was sitting in silence but feeling more connected than in any conversation. Lovely viewers, their love grew in these small details, in the ordinary moments that felt extraordinary simply because they were shared. And as this emotional closeness deepened, Min-ho began realizing something he never expected. He was no longer afraid of vulnerability. In fact, he embraced it. Because with her, vulnerability didn't feel like weakness. It felt like trust. He once told her quietly, "I used to hide so much of myself. But with you, I don't want to hide anymore." And she responded with a soft smile, "You don't have to. Not here." It wasn't always emotional intensity, though. They had playful moments too. Moments that made their bond feel alive and joyful. Like the afternoon she challenged him to a cooking competition, and he completely ruined the dish, but she insisted on trying it anyway, pretending it was delicious until she burst into laughter. Or the time he surprised her by learning a song on the piano just because he knew she loved it. Or the night they spent dancing in the living room with no music, just the sound of their laughter echoing softly through the house. Lovely viewers, these moments weren't grand or dramatic. They were deeply human, and that was what made them beautiful. But perhaps the most touching part of the continuation of their story was how they began to heal not just individually, but together. Min-ho, who once felt the weight of expectations crushing him, now felt supported. He began taking better care of himself, not because he was forced to, but because she inspired him to. And Hye Kyo, who had learned to be strong alone, began learning the power of being strong together.